Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We are recording this, so we'll send out the recording after as well, but I'm excited to dive in. I know Veronica is too. So we will say hello and introduce ourselves, and then we'll get started. I am Rachel Suman. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for IAAP, and this is a rare, exciting thing that Veronica and I are in the same space. Yes, so I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I am Veronica Cochran, currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer for the incredible IAAP. And I am here with Rachel in Kansas City, where the weather is, let's just say, pretty cold.
It is pretty, it's January, you know, what are you gonna do? I'm sure she's anxious to go back to warmer weather. So we are so excited. We are going to co-lead you through this workshop. And so I really want to kind of set up how this is going to go, and then we can kind of dive into how it's going to work, why we're hosting it, all of that good stuff. But the purpose of this is really to give you intentional time to carve out some space to think about your professional development needs, not only for this year, but even for future. Sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up, especially in the last couple of years. You know, we just head down, focus, doing the thing, getting it done, and we forget to just stop and take kind of a 50,000-foot view of our life, our goals, our career trajectory. So this is really the purpose of that. We're going to give you a lot of quiet time and space to actually work on the worksheets that you received from Chris earlier today. Chris, we forgot to mention, I'm so sorry.
Chris has to introduce himself.
Yes, and then I'm going to give it to you to talk, but I totally forgot. So Chris Kassan is our amazing EA, and he is here helping us in the chat. So give him a little wave and a shout out. He's not on camera, but we are looking at him because he's in the same space too. So very exciting. Anyway, total squirrel moment. Veronica, please.
You know, Rachel and I were kind of having maybe a pre-conversation. And I think the thing that is important that we all take note of is as how we do work, how work gets done, who we get to do work with, the entire definition of work, the parameters surrounding work, the environment of work, all of that is certainly evolving. But one of the things that I think is really clear is the trends, both from maybe 2020, also I think 2021, really showed that learning is a trend. Micro learning is a trend. Finding a community of peer learners is also a trend. And typically we think of learning as something I do for me, right? But learning has far more significant reach than that, in such that it has a benefit to your organization, obviously a benefit to your manager, your direct supervisor, but there's so much more. I actually think learners should now become, if you are doing a resume today, I would encourage you to include learner as maybe a skill, as something that people are now beginning to identify as something that is a non-negotiable, because the speed of change is happening at rapid fire pace, and the ability to learn and adapt and evolve and develop are going to be critical skill sets, no matter the industry or the service. So I'd start there, I think.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And those of us as admins tend to not think of ourselves first in that space. Exactly. We are used to just having something thrown at us, figuring it out on the fly, and move on to the next thing. And so learner, I think, to your point, is so important because it makes us more efficient, it makes us more productive, it makes us more confident, it makes us all of the things that make us an incredible employee and value add to our organization and showcase our value in that way. So it might feel a little, as we really dive into these worksheets and we dive into thinking about what we need as a person, an administrative professional in this, it can feel almost selfish to go into that and think, I am a learner, like that is me, I have that strength, I have that talent, I have that. Like, it's okay, give yourself permission. It's not selfish. It will benefit you, your manager, your team, your organization in so many ripple effect ways. So for the next 40 minutes now, be selfish, because it's not selfish at all.
Not selfish at all. Not selfish. You know, when you said that, you made me think, typically when we're given a new task, the expectation is do whatever it takes to do the task well. And that means go learn it, go figure it out, whether you have to, you know, jump on the internet and do a little sleuthing. So I think there is a huge expectation that if I give you something you don't know how to do it, you would be able to go and learn to do it. But I think not only is that kind of the silent, small print around every new task, job description, but I think it should be part of all conversations. It should be part of your developmental conversations. It should be part certainly of compensation conversations, so that people aren't just dropping off new things for us to do or learn how to do. We're actually having conversation about how those things improve the work, the workforce, improve the organization. Certainly should be part of our evaluation process as well as compensation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's dive in,
in.
y'all.
Okay.
We're excited. So the first page or the first template rather that I want you to pull out that Chris sent is step 1, which is called the overall long-term, I'm going to put it up here so you can see it, professional development plan. And this is in a Word format, so you can very easily change it. This is not a static document. So it is our hope and goal and prayer that you will use this and tweak it as you need. Life happens. None of us could have predicted 2020. That is a perfect time to go back and revisit this and say, my goals have changed significantly. So while it's important to have this and keep it on the radar, it should not be the end all be all. So as you think about this, and I'm going to give some examples and then I want you to jump into, but this is really around long-term career goals. So we've got space for 3 to 5 career goals that you want to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's very easy for you to say, or any of us to say, well, I have 7 or I have 10 or I have how many? We just talked about this week. Yeah. So the 3 to 5 is really important because they need to be achievable and you want to be able to accomplish them and then still be alive at the end of the process. So maybe you want to get certified. Maybe you want to attend summit. Maybe you want to expand your role, start an admin community in your organization, start a branch in your organization, get a raise. The sky's the limit on what these could be, but it's really good to set these goals as you look at your long-term career trajectory.
I was going to say, when we say long-term, I think there's it's kind of a dot scenario. So long-term for me, if I were creating one, it would be no more than a year. There are people who do really well with the 1 to 2 year projection. So that's also, I think, okay. But because we're living in such an incredibly, what I would consider maybe an ambivalent time, I would say 12 months. And then I would actually say I'd carve out a quarterly focus because there's so much that I think we're contending with that I think anything else feels way too overwhelming or maybe feels entirely too futuristic. So I would say I would look at about a 12-month pathway with a real quarterly focus, that this is what I'm focused on for this quarter.
That's perfect. Yeah, and we've got some steps, as you look through this, this is a template. So feel free to tweak this as you need it to make it your own. It really is just meant to be a guide to help you carve out that quarterly focus, to really give you some narrow vision into what you want to accomplish and how you are going to accomplish it. So all that to say, we are going to stop talking for a little bit. We are going to put on some lo-fi music. Those of you who have possibly teenagers, my teenagers love this to study too. And we're going to set a timer for, what time are we at? I think we can give you 7 minutes, 8 minutes, something like that. Yeah. And so we'll be on chat. Chris is on chat. We'll watch it as well. And so if you have any questions or anything, do not hesitate to bring them to us. We'll try and keep the clicking to a minimum. I need to keep it off mute for the music, but just give out. This does not need to be completed in this time. Please do not complete it in this time. It really is just meant to kind of start the juices flowing. So do you want to give any last minute while I pull up the ditties on my phone?
I think the tendency would be maybe to go to a micro level. I think I'd encourage you to stay maybe a little higher up. Just kind of the bigger themes of what you might want to work on might be a bigger place to start. If you want to improve critical thinking, then maybe I'd start with that. And then you can figure out maybe what exists in support of helping you move toward more critical thinking. Maybe it's more around a focus on confrontation. You know what I mean? So I just think I would start something a little higher up, and then you can always go down and get certainly more specific, but I think I'd start a little higher.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, well, ask us any questions. I'm going to start everything. Fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we dive in, I saw a note in the chat that I could feel that you really wanted to jump in on. So for those of you who are having trouble making goals, I know you can offer some.
Yeah, I think goals are a little tricky. You know, I do think for me, I think even more now, maybe Rachel than ever, maybe goals are a little more critical. Number one, I think it tells people where our focus and our energy are going. It is a way to keep us managing our time, because if I know this is where I've dedicated both energy, time, focus, resource, then that also keeps me on. So I think it's a bit of a time management tool, but it's also really critical when people are adding work to you, right? Because it's an opportunity to say, let me show you what I'm currently working on. And I've got X amount of priorities. This is where my time is going. I don't have the time for that. Or it at least gives me negotiating power if I need to say, which one of these can move to the back so that this can move to the front. So I think more so now than ever, goals are a way of holding ourselves accountable. It just gives us real negotiating power and opportunity to show people where we're going to work. I actually find on an evaluation, which I think everybody should be getting, it's a great place to say, here are the things I've accomplished this year. So I know they're difficult, but I think they're difficult because everybody's asking so much of us, and we do not have really great boundaries around, you know, how I move from one job task to another, you know, but something about goals keeps me nimble, so that I know I've got to spend X amount of time on this goal and that goal. So I can't just saturate myself in one thing, which, you know, sometimes we can do, you know. So I think they are a little tricky. I would just encourage you to find a way to start with a couple that I think are industry specific, maybe some interpersonal ones that really are more in support of how you want to show up and your competence and your credibility. I think sometimes goals can be better developed after conversations to figure out what kind of foresight your supervisor, HR, whoever can give you in support of where your organization is going for your specific industry. But I will tell you, interpersonal skills are going to be high on the map. And in addition to that, I think inclusive skills, where we're talking about cultural responsiveness and things of that nature. So I would just say, I know goals are hard, but they've probably never been more necessary, for sure.
You hit on something I was exactly thinking of, which is, while I think goals should be yours to own and only yours to own, like if you have goals that are other people have to do X, Y, Z, then you're not in control of your goals. But it also is really important to have those conversations with your peers, with your supervisor, with your whatever that looks like, especially if you're struggling to create your own goals. Sometimes you need that other perspective to say, you know, I think from a trusted mentor, a trusted source who you can hear maybe some difficult things from and take them the way they are intended, and be able to say, you know what, you are amazing in all of these spaces. If I could offer something, it might be communication skills, something more specific than that, but something that would help give you some direction and say, because none of us are great at everything. That is physically impossible for us to be great at everything. There's always room for improvement and growth. And that's really what goals are, is something to shoot for to grow.
I would absolutely put communication on any list. I mean,
Mhm.
it's high on my list, and under communication effectiveness, I think public speaking should be a thing, because especially in the light of this whole new environment, like whether you're speaking to one person or 1 million people, speaking well publicly, right? Not the mic, not the stage, but just speaking well publicly is a thing. And it so affects your professional image, it affects your brand, it affects to some degree your credibility, people find you confident. So I would say if you're struggling to find your goal, like land in the communication effectiveness space, maybe improve public speaking or speaking well publicly. I think they're very similar, but both critically important. If that gives you any place to start, for sure.
Yeah, and I think those inclusive goals you spoke of are so important. Like any interpersonal, we all have room to grow in those interpersonal skills, which communication is one, but even just confrontation, conflict, the dealing with difficult people, which most people will tell you there's no such thing as a difficult person. Or if you don't know any, it's you is the joke. But it really, like, none of us have gotten there. So I really think any of those are always a great goal to have. If you want a tangible goal, tangible, certification, recertification, a certificate course, attending summit to learn XYZ skill, like those are all great ones, and obviously we recommend them. We are biased, but we do them, like we do them really well. So those are always fantastic, but it can't be at the exception of those necessary critical interpersonal skills. Oh, go ahead.
We have a question in the chat.
Sure.
Oh, yes.
If you've achieved some of your primary goals like certification and so forth, what are some other good goals to aim for? You kind of are touching on it, but are there other?
Well, I would add recertification on there, just top of mind. Did you think that?
I was gonna say, like, real talk, leadership is the thing. It is for me. It's the most expected skill set, I think, on the planet right now. And obviously, leadership not being position centric, but being maybe steeped in responsibility, initiative, accountability, those kind of things. So for me, if you haven't taken anything in the leadership space, foundations of leadership, I would absolutely say sign on to any one of the leadership offerings. I think those are also going to be critically important for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And implement those. I'm thinking of our leadership opportunities in IAAP. That is a fantastic goal. Let's say you want to be a branch director, you want to be a regional director, you want to be a board member. Like, those are fantastic goals to achieve because they allow you to put those in practice. You learn the leadership skills, go put them to good use. Okay. Any more before we move on to the next? I want to be cognizant of our time too. So, okay, perfect. Well, next, let's go to step 2, which is the annual professional development plan worksheet. And this one's a little bit longer, so we might probably not give you any kind of quiet time to fill this out. I want to have us all walk through it together. And then feel free to take this away. Like I said, this is not meant to be an end-all be-all. You should complete all of these in 45 minutes, but it at least gives you a great start. So this first page is very similar to the overall long-term plan. So really kind of laser focusing on those goals that you want to accomplish this year. Veronica, you already mentioned it. Maybe some competencies that you want to enhance. Maybe you've got a challenge that you were just facing over and over at work, a difficult person, running into some leadership struggles, whatever that is. Like, what are the things that you really want to focus on solving, completing, the fill in the blank of the adjective of what that is, and put those here. Go ahead. Did you? I don't want to.
No, you go ahead.
So it may be definitely focus on competencies. Veronica mentioned the public speaking. We happen to have the public speaking certificate course open right now. It's going to be amazing. Public speaking, and this is I'll share this here with you. We were discussing this around public speaking. I think when we hear the term public speaking, we think we get on a stage. Somebody gets on a stage, they get behind a podium, they take the microphone, and they're speaking to a huge audience. That is not true. Like public speaking can be one-on-one.
In the
Like,
audience.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were speaking to another living soul. That is public speaking. And especially in this virtual world, that is an essential skill. And I know that all of us have been on a webinar or a virtual training or something, and we're like, this person is not skilled in this arena. Hopefully you're not saying that about this today, but it is a skill that every single person in this entire planet right now needs to have. So that would be a great competency that you want to enhance. Maybe there's a challenge that you're facing, whether it's technology, a team dynamic issue. Like just think about stuff that you hit on a fairly regular basis. It doesn't have to be daily, on a fairly regular basis, and say it gives you that, you know, that feeling where you're just like, ugh, gosh, I wish I could solve XYZ because I would have so much less stress. Put that on here. Like, write it down. That is a challenge that you need to find a solution for. So I'm going to give you a second to kind of go through that. And I see the chat is kind of going, so I want to make sure we don't have any questions before we
I
move
don't
on.
have any real questions. There's a few folks that haven't received the handouts, so I'm sending those out.
Thank you. Chris is sending you handouts. He's amazing.
Thank you.
You know, just in the wake of the last 2 years, I really would encourage people to think like truly comprehensive and holistically about themselves, because you know, in order to perform at our best, you know, you have to be your best. And so I think there's nothing wrong with, you know, goals that have to do with managing stress, that have to do with, you know, for me, a greater sense of self-empathy or self-care. And, you know, I mean, it's just, we learned the hard way, I think, the last couple of years that, you know, we are more than an FTE. We're certainly more than an 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour day. And in order to be our best in those moments, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of behind the scenes taken care of that has to be a part of the conversation. So, and I think more employers are talking about that. So we're not mentioning something that people are gonna, you know, basically not validate. I think people really understand the power of mental health.
I agree. Especially one of the things, and I will speak for you because I know you agree, one of the things that is so amazing about our community is that they are service-minded, and you all are 100% in it to support. And that's amazing. And that is incredible. And that can be really tricky when it comes to the self-care. We put ourselves last on a fairly regular basis. And so I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is a goal that belongs on every single one of our worksheets. And so I think that's a really great one. And again, that feels selfish, and it's 100% not.
Yeah. Not selfish at all.
Okay.
All right.
So we're going to keep going, but don't worry if you were still working on stuff. No worries. This is a work at your own pace. So next we've got on this worksheet to talk about membership and we will talk about ROI a lot in this session, which is return on investment. So the return on investment for your organization with membership, I'm sure some of you already know this. We both can talk about it for probably a whole lot longer than we have for this session right now. But it really is, this is a perfect example. This is a free member experience that you have been offered as being a part of a member of IAAP that is giving you community, that is giving you information, that is giving you space to be the best version of yourself, which in turn benefits your organization. So putting that in here and making sure that your organization has the opportunity and the great privilege of supporting your membership is a must.
I think sometimes we don't always connect the dots for our people, you know, so that whatever my unique benefit is, there is a benefit to my unique manager, there's a benefit to the organization. So there's a part of this that really does involve a little bit of critical thinking and a little bit of how do I connect the dots so that I can show that there's a direct benefit, not just to me, but a direct benefit to the organization. So I would encourage those conversations where I can determine that if I can help myself improve, I can save my direct manager time. I can be far more inclusive, far more innovative. So I just think we got to connect the dots that my benefit is a benefit to the whole, to all.
Yep, absolutely. Selfish, but not selfish. So the professional development opportunities that address page 1. So this is where, and I encourage you to take some time to research this. So jot down some thoughts, but don't complete this now, excuse me. But this is really around a challenge that you noted, a competency that you want to increase. Whatever you put on that former page 2 of this document is where you would find resources, tools, opportunities that help meet that need. So let's say public speaking. You go on the website and you see the certificate course and you think that is spot on. That is going to help me be a better public speaker. Put that in here and highlight why. So like Veronica said, connecting the dots is really the purpose of this whole exercise and really the purpose of asking for any support in professional development. It feels obvious that, of course, me developing myself would enhance you, but sometimes you really do have to paint that picture for your organization to be able to say, this is why me earning this certificate or getting certified or whatever the case is going to benefit.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm a better communicator, then we have less potential for misunderstanding. We have less opportunity for duplication because I can know what I'm being expected to do without, you know, a lot of meandering back and forth. So I get far more efficient. I lose the opportunity possibly to do somebody else's something or duplicate the effort. But also that's a huge issue for communicating with customers and ensuring the brand is represented correctly. So you could take that little ripple effect all the way out to, you know, the most common denominator of giving very good service by effectively communicating with customers. You know, so I just think you just kind of sit and think it all the way through. It has incredible benefit for people far outside of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to take a minute to call your attention. You also received a programs and services overview in the packet that Chris sent you. And so that is a great resource as you start to really look at opportunities to improve your competencies, solve those challenges. We think our stuff is pretty amazing. And everything that we offer is really obviously targeted to administrative professionals. And so we understand the unique challenges, the unique role that you all have, and really customize the education, certification, all of that for it. So if you're looking for some ideas, I think I saw in the chat some people hadn't even heard of some of the offerings that we have. That is a great once over that you can look at. Click on those links and find out more about those, especially under leadership, whatever you're looking for, that's a great resource. So the next section you will see is you've got that list of everything that you want to do. So this is where you would really call out how that's going to benefit. So this is really where if you're picturing Bob Ross painting on the on the canvas right now, this is really where you start to see it take shape and you're like, oh, he's painting at XYZ. So this is really the box where you're like, oh, this is painting this picture. So public speaking, I am going to learn this, 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 and this. It will be very easy, I think, to expound in these areas. And so it's important to be concise. Make your point, but make it quickly, because you don't want to have people read a whole lot of stuff. They can get lost in the narrative and then you miss the overall point.
No, I agreed. And there's so much that hinges on engagement. So a lot of this is about you better enjoying your work, but also being able to do it more efficiently, but also being able to be more engaged as a player. And the more engaged you are, the more likely you will be to be, retained, and the more loyal you will be to the brand. So you can see that if you connect the dots, that engagement goes a long way. It includes your performance. So it's just really neat. If you can just begin thinking through all the ways this will benefit you, and then I go to the next layer out, how will it benefit my direct manager, and then go to the next level out, how will it benefit the organization, and take it one layer out, how will it benefit the customer. And so you can easily find 1 or 2 pluses, I think, across those 4 columns for sure.
Absolutely. And somebody mentioned SMART goals earlier, but it is important to make sure they are measurable. So becoming a better communicator, yes, how is that going to happen? So be really specific as you're listing these out. The next box, our favorite, all of our favorites, is the cost. And it's really important to list, excuse me, both the time or the money cost and the time cost, because as we all know, time is money for all organizations. And so you want to list out what the impact is and how you are going to work to help support, especially in the time
Mhm.
space. So whether you are having your work distributed to 3 different people to help, whether you are going to be, whatever your policy is at your organization, you will note it in the worksheet, and there may be capital letters because it's true. Working during the training is not an option. You really, now if you have an evening where you need to catch up for an hour, that's a completely different instance, but keeping up during the training just wastes everybody's time and money. So it's really important to list that and show that you have thought through a backup plan for when you're going to be gone.
Yeah, I think the second piece of time for me is if you tell me as your direct manager that it's going to require X amount of time, that tells me how I'm going to support you. Because I think it's all too often we're expected to do it and, right? So, but I really want to emphasize the criticality of employer support, right? So yes, I want you to support me financially, but I also want you to know I'm going to need this time to prepare for my certification. I'm going to need to be involved in the study groups, and I think that's a critical piece, that here's what you can do for me. In addition to supporting me financially, I want you to support me in time. I need you to know when I'm away, I'm going to be studying and how critical that actually is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And moving on down the template, I really encourage everyone to kind of break down the financial piece of it. So employers can really see very specifically, this is going to travel, this is going to registration, this is going to keep a spreadsheet, do different tabs if you're asking for different things. They want to see the hard data. And so that's really important to include. Don't, just putting a registration brochure out there doesn't really give the big picture. So get as specific as you possibly can, because that's going to give more confidence to your employer, HR, whoever you're speaking to say, okay, then I know that it can come out of this budget because we have that money here. And the last step of the template, we're going kind of quickly because I'm watching our time and we're so close to it, but it's good because all of this is just giving you the tools to go off and do this on your own. So it's not meant to be completed now. But the last piece of this is to draft a cover letter or an email that really introduces the proposal that we're going to talk about in a second and requests time to meet. And we were talking before this session, and that is, we cannot speak to how essential that is. You cannot just email a proposal over and expect an automatic yes. Now, unless that's your policy in your organization, that's a separate issue. But if this is really meant to start a conversation with whoever you need to speak to about this, because there's one thing to put it all in writing and they see that hard, fast data that we talked about, the black and white, but the conversation is where you add color. I'm going back to the canvas. It's where you add the color to your canvas. They see your passion, they see your excitement, they see that this is really important and how it is going to benefit you and the organization. So I know that's really hard for some of us. It's really intimidating.
Oh, it's so important because
they may say no.
Well, and they may say no, but this is your opportunity to negotiate, with maybe why not, or maybe why not now, or then you're maybe negotiating for another time. And I think what's critical about the conversation is they can ask you all the things you're really afraid of, which is, well, if I let you do that, then what happens if, the next 10 administrative professionals are going to want to go. So you could say, well, you know what, I can solve that. I'm going to come back and I'll be happy to do any service for you, for my peers. But I think I want the conversation. I want you to have the dialogue. I want you to get so good at advocating for your development, because this is not going away. And I want you to feel really good about, if I can't get a yes now, tell me what I can do to get the yes. So maybe I got to go back and work on the proposal. Maybe I can secure the manager in knowing I'm not going to let anything fall through the cracks. I got you, but I also have me, and I want to be sure that you're supporting me as I'm supporting you. And that's a true partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's important for all of us to remember your organization has already invested in you. That's why you're there. Like, this is enhancing their investment. And I think you can even say that, like, you already are investing in me. I'm getting a paycheck for doing this work. You are going to get more value from that investment you've already made if I can earn this certificate or learn this skill or, you know, fill in the blank with whatever those goals are. So it's important to go in with that mentality and not feeling like you're crawling in asking for something subserviently. This is, you have to be your own advocate. You said it beautifully. Like, this is, you have to do this for yourself.
You can do it.
You can.
I think that especially where there's not a lot of room for promotability, right? And we're in that day where there's not a lot of movement happening in organizations. You know, people are seeing reductions in force, but there's got to be a conversation around other benefits. So if you can't promote me, you by golly better be developing me. And you know, and so it becomes part of the landscape of how they engage you and how they retain you, but also how they value you. Because I'm a firm believer that this conversation around really self-actualization, becoming my best self, is like a non-negotiable. If I can't be that here, I want to go someplace I can. And so I think it's a critical conversation, which is why you got to have the conversation around the tools. At some point, you might not need them, but at least the first two, I would really encourage you go in, have a significant conversation about your desire, about your plans, listen to them, and then you might have a better sense of what you need to do to prepare for the change that's coming in your organization.
Absolutely. And I love you said that about a negotiation because it's true. No may mean a whole lot of different things. So maybe you can't get all three of them, but you can get one of them. Maybe, you know, you can't do this one, but you can do one next year or in the fall or whatever. Like, that's why the conversation is so important, because it's way too easy if you send off a proposal to hear no and then door shut, that's it. So the conversation and the tools are critical. Which leads me to the last, and we're not going to go through this necessarily. This is actually putting the proposal together. And so we've given you a template that you are welcome to use. It's annual professional development proposal. You can use this, you can tweak it, you can make your own, sky's the limit on what you want, but it's really important to pull all of this information together that you've gotten from the other worksheets and give it to HR, your boss, whoever the person is, in a really succinct, bulleted, this is what I am so excited to talk to you about proposal, and then schedule the conversation.
Absolutely, I would. You know, these are great tools to show up at evaluation. But, you know, here were my goals. Here's how far I've gotten on those. Here are the ones you said yes to. Here are the ones I want you to say yes to. You know, so it's a really good tool. Really good tool.
Absolutely. We have a couple of minutes left. Can you believe how fast it went? I'm like, no, we have 2 minutes. Double checking all of my clocks because they have to be wrong. But before we go, Krista, was there, I know you were monitoring chat. Were there any questions that came through, or do y'all have any questions now before we wrap up?
There was a lot of good recommendations of resources.
Good.
So that was being shared quite a bit, some article links and quotes and mantras, but I don't see.
You guys are fabulous.
This is the best community ever. Ever.
Yeah, I think we're good on the questions.
Our community is the learning lab. Like, that's it of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Nope, just a thank you. Let's see. There was a question that came back about workshops for CE units.
That's an excellent question. Yeah, I was going to hold up this snazzy little one-sheeter. This really has access to everything. So it has access to all of our resources that we provide through headquarters here. It has access to all of the branches and regions that host events throughout the year. So there is a fantastic opportunity. Click into all of those links. If you have any questions, geninfo@iaap-hq.org. We put that in chat too. I just threw that out there. But we are 100% always here to answer any questions. You are a member, so Social Link is another incredible resource. Go out and chat to each other in the forums and get some resources that way. But that is definitely what I would recommend, is just diving into that one-sheeter and finding the ones that really align to your goals.
Yay! I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys are like, yes.
I saw somebody has a goals meeting tomorrow. That was
right. You're right. That is the answer to the test for sure.
Good. Well, thank you all so much. We will send out this recording so you have it. We should have all of the resources. If you need us, you know how to get to us.
Absolutely.
We're It was our honor. Thank you
It was.
so
I'm
much.
so glad I
This was
could
so
be
much
here.
fun.
Yeah, so much fun.
We are excited, and we're excited to see you all in Nashville. I'm going to do just a shameless plug.
Do a
for
shameless
second.
plug.
That summit in Nashville is going to be amazing.
Oh.
So if anybody who is new to IAAP, our annual conference is called Summit, and we have not gotten to do it in person for 2 years,
2 years.
now, obviously. And so it is our 80th anniversary this year. We have so much great stuff planned. So as you're planning out your year,
Summit should be on the goal sheet.
think about Summit. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see y'all there or see you at an upcoming event. But thank you for spending a few minutes with us today. And like I said, we're always here to help, support whatever you need. So just give us a shout. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bye.
your time today.
Stay safe.
Bye.